Now, remember I said we were going to take a pause on the conversation. We weren't ending the conversation because now that I have Kingsley and Kayode here, I'm going to squeeze all the information. So it's time to go back to conversations with Mrs. R, with Kayode, Kingsley, Auntie Tochi, and of course, Mrs. R.
If your 27-year-old son or 30-year-old came to you and said, Dad, I'd like to get married soon, what should I be looking out for in my future wife? What would be your response? I'd like to hear what you say.
Okay, first of all, I'll try to establish, is he ready? Because the woman that you're looking for has to receive something that she herself is desiring. So are you in a desirable state yourself? Can you manage a home? Are you mature enough to say, if children came today, are you stable enough? Are you mature enough to be able to build, to handle the whole situation? So I'll first of all probe that out. Even before I begin to say, look, let's even begin to discuss this woman. It's an evaluation of him as a son. Then, like I said, for me, it's about the foundational principles. She could be black, Chinese, Greek, but from a Christian background, based on those fundamental principles, are you aligned? Is there alignment? Then what does she do? Then you try to evaluate the background as well. What kind of issues is she bringing to the table? Not to say don't marry her because of that, but it's just so you'll be aware that these are the kind of issues. If she's from a different race, you know that you're going to have to handle. That's going to be something you're going to have to contend with. Open his mind up to the various things that he might find as a challenge, and prepare his mind for those kind of issues.
What would be those various things?
Say, for instance, now, if she's Chinese, and I'll say, well, if the fundamentals are there and the foundational principles are there, then here's what you might expect. You're going to have to go and live in her country, or she might have to come and live with her. Is that something that you're both thought about seriously? How are you going to raise your kids? Are they going to be, which side of the divide? Which country will they be? Is your wife comfortable living in Nigeria? Those are the kind of questions you probe out.
In fact, sorry, just to interrupt a bit, I had a life case like that. It was a young lady, a Nigerian, who just started dating a guy who was Jewish. And I said, okay, it's not marriage, but just fast forward. If in 2 years' time it happens that you want to marry this Jewish guy, I know that the mother has to be Jewish for the child to be considered Jewish. Have you decided that if you can convert? All along you've been a Christian, naming the name of Jesus. You would have to renounce that. Would you do that from a happy place? Pressure-free and for the rest of your lives. The children, are they going to be Jewish? Are you going to conform to a lot of traditional things? So if I know you are educated, both of you, if you can't, just cut it off right now. Because you might get to a point where you guys like each other. You agree on a lot of, just this one single thing, and you say, but it's a big one thing, it's foundational. Just to confirm what you're saying.
About foundational issues.
And Mrs. R, to the point as well, men are very pragmatic. I mean, I look at myself as being very pragmatic and very practical. So the sentiments to one side, you try to look at what are the practicalities of making this relationship sustainable and work. So those are the kind of issues you probe around to just get a good sense of, is the child fully aware of all those issues? Then give them all the information to go and process. And let them now, based on the convictions they have, to see whether those convictions are strong enough to override or supersede those issues that have been raised.
Marian, you know why I'm persistent? Because you don't get to question men all the time. So it's almost like, let me ask all the questions, and I have one more to ask them. I met a young man who's 35 not too long ago, and I asked him why he wasn't married. And he says to me, Auntie, as we do in the context of our Nigerian relationships, Auntie, I don't think I find Nigerian ladies whom I want to get married to, and that took me aback. I said, why? He said, because all they seem to, and I'm not castigating our young ladies, I'm just repeating what he said. All they are interested in is the cost, or is the weeks and which restaurant you can take them to. So I'm going for a Spanish girl I've met. So how do we explain that these young men prefer to marry expatriate women who they consider less materialistic and easy to handle? And what would be the advice? Mrs. Okpara brought up the issue of religion, so that's one aspect. In this case, they're also looking at demands, social and economic demands.
First, let me say that it's also a myth to say all the good girls are taken.
Or are materialistic.
So that to say all the good girls are materialistic, it's a myth. The question is, where are you looking? I'd like to piggyback on something that he said. What are you looking for? A number of the guys that we have done certain psychometric tests with, they don't really know what they are looking for.
Yes, yes. Sometimes it is what the friend has done. They borrow a leaf.
If you don't know what you're looking for, your first line of defense is, oh, everybody is materialistic and they're looking for money or something like that. So that's a defense. Not to say that there are no materialistic girls. No, there are. But there are also girls that need to see what's the value you are bringing to the table. So he could want a Spanish girl, and maybe just the Spanish girl's belief system aligns with his, regardless of all these others. Okay, so for example, if we're going to backtrack to say what your first question about the 27-year-old, because I got married at 27, right? And I looked at myself at 27. What was I looking for? There has to be something that we do now, something that I now know is what we call love language tests. Are we speaking the same love language? Do we click? For one person, my love language may be quality time. But for some other person, her love language is gifts.
It's gifts.
Now, if the person that you are meeting, her love language is gifts, and you don't have gifts to give,
it's not for you.
You guys are not speaking the same language.
Yes, that's so true.
You are not speaking the same language.
That will be part of compatibility, is that?
That's part of compatibility, right? There's love language. There's belief system. For premaritals, in our practice, we do belief system tests, belief assessment, to check what are your convictions and what are her convictions. Do they align? Do you understand? Then there's personality discovery test. I'm laid back. She's more bossy. There's nothing wrong with a bossy lady. If you cannot handle a bossy lady, it means she's not for you. It doesn't mean that a bossy lady is bad.
Is a bad person.
Now, there are different kinds of men, for example. There's a traditional man. Traditional man wants to be the breadwinner of his home.
And the king.
He wants to be the king. And the wife of a traditional man is someone that is submissive to him. He provides everything and she has no problem. A career woman may not be a good match for a traditional man, because a career woman wants advancement, is ambitious, but a career man doesn't need that.
Has big ideas too.
Yes, has big ideas.
She feels she also may be the one driving.
But a traditional man doesn't need that. So if he comes and he meets a lady that has big ideas, can say, no, me, I just want you to stay in my house and take care of my children. I will supply all your needs according to my riches in glory. Now, these are different things. So for me, those things were the things that I was looking at, that personality, compatibility. The truth is, they are looking for trophy wives, but they have not won the award yet.
Oh, wow.
That's a
Thank you.
I was going to ask you a question based on that. They say, what is the reason you're marrying? Is it to get trophy or to change status? Because now there's Plan B passport. There's also wealth of the family. So you're saying they shoot over. I would tie these ones also to your shooting over. It's not just the trophy. I want to leave Nigeria. She has passport that can take us to 17 or 20 countries. It's very prominent.
Yes.
Then there's family wealth. Any which way I go get something.
I go get something.
And we're sorted.
Yes.
So I like that. You said you want the trophy, but you've not won the award.
You don't want the award. So it's easy for you to say the ladies are materialistic. The ladies have probably seen they've seen some materials. They've seen some materials. When I was going out with my wife, I was in a broke stage. There was a stage where I was broke, really. I was broke, and she wrote this in her book, Husband Material. I was just doing what I was doing then, but this is with hindsight when she wrote the book, and she put this story there. It was her birthday, and I was broke. I didn't really have money. To show you how broke I was, I went to a bookstore, and I bought her a second-hand book, a second-hand women's devotional. Second-hand means it has been used, and then I wrapped it in 3 different wrapping sheets. And on each layer of the sheet, I wrote a different note. I changed my handwriting so that she won't know it was me anyway. So I did that on each layer, and I packaged it beautifully. Well, it was an old gift. And I took it and I dropped it with her. I just told her, oh, someone sent this gift to you. Eventually, she figured out that it was me. But for her, she said that meant this is someone that we can be broke together and we can make it together. So whether we are based or we are bound, we'll be all right. But for me, I just wanted to do something. What am I looking for? What are you looking for? Those people that are looking for names are just looking for a way to make it. It may be that what they are. So that's why I said there's marriage as intended by God, and there's marriage as practiced by men. Now, if men want to practice it their own way, they should not be expecting the results of God. So if your intention is, I want to get married to change passport, don't get married and you have changed passport and you're coming back to me as a counselor to tell me you don't understand why your marriage is not working or why we're having problems. You have gotten the passport.
That was the reason. So everything that comes with it.
Take it like that. Take it like that.
I hear that.
Do you understand? So for guys that you have not reached that trophy, you see, calm down, right? And walk your way up. Walk your way up at your level. Trust me, when I spoke about the bone, if the lady cannot match your current reality and can only match your dream, it means she's not the one for now. Because some ladies can only match your dream. They can match where you are going, but they cannot relate with where you are.
Where you are.
And that doesn't make them bad.
That doesn't make them bad. It just means them. Yeah. So you, as a guy,
you know, I
know this is where I am now, but this is not where I'm always going to be. But if at the present, she cannot relate with where I am.
So you're looking at, it's not process now, productivity along the way.
Along the way.
Remember what Pastor Fejiro said? Productivity. He's not quite there.
But
I can see.
I can see
movements.
He's not a lazy man. He's not a lazy man.
He's not a lazy person.
He's not entitled.
He's creative. He's fruitful.
It's going to just a bit of time.
It's just a question of time.
Do you understand? So if she can relate with that, then it means you guys can journey
to the
you can journey.
She can enter your boat.
She can enter
and you row together.
If she cannot, free the sister.
There are a few things that you have said that has resonated. One, this last thing you said, which is that she might not be the one for you right now where you're at, doesn't make her wrong. She's just not at the level you are at, and you should recognize that.
Yes.
So it's not an issue, because sometimes we married the lady that was doing the hair that was long and was costing $650. You knew. You bought it for her birthday. She does. She will continue. Then you now say, when you're inside, it's 50,000 on. We'll be buying.
No.
It's kind of unfair.
Yes.
So that's one. Then two, to be on the same.
And there's nothing wrong for the ladies to aspire.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong.
Yes. The lady too, where she's her own thought pattern and your own might not be the same. So like you said, the traditional man, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
Just marry the woman that is submissive. Don't marry the lady boss and then she doesn't respect me. And also the ladies, don't marry the traditional man that you know is traditional.
But because he has money.
You now marry, then you now start to say he's not allowing me fly. I spread my wings. Can you imagine after all I've done?
And it becomes prayer points. That's
exactly.
That's the part I was coming to. Because if you do certain things right, you will reduce the prayer points that you give to pastors. I'm serious.
Oh my God. Unfortunately, we really have to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Kingsley. Thank you, Kayode. One of the things I got from Kayode when you're talking about what you tell your sons, and one of the things I'm praying and hoping that people are listening, people that have sons and daughters, I think these conversations you have with your children. Because when he said, the first thing he said, when Mrs. Ara said, what should he look for? You said, is he ready? That was like, yes. Before you even look for what somebody else has, you yourself. And that goes for the ladies too. I think mothers should also have that. I think mothers have the conversation a lot, but I think fathers should also have that conversation with their sons when they say, they want to get married.
Even before they say so.
Even before this, when they get to an age, what they should, how they should work on themselves. So,
I would like to sort of close this with a scriptural perspective, which I believe is applicable to men and women, young men and women. Productivity or potential is also the other word I can use. Look to the potential. I mean, sometimes we give this criteria index that makes it seem that it would all be perfect from the beginning. So I think that comes across even from listening to the men. You know the story of David and Abigail and Nabal. So I think what distinguished Abigail and David got to marry her after her husband Nabal's death was that Abigail spoke to the king in David. All you hear these days is, as Auntie Tochi said, you hear about family, money. What else did you say? Passport and all this. And perhaps that's why it's all ending up in a rush, the same way you rush in. What strikes me over and over again when I read that story is that David was a fugitive in the wilderness. And Abigail was already with a rich husband who had everything. Yes. But she wasn't happy. Yes. She had the passport, she had the money, she had the man had the family wealth.
Nabal meant foolish man.
And Nabal incidentally meant foolish man. But Abigail knew, when she went to see, she knew about David. She knew that David had the potential, was hardworking, productive, but in the wilderness. So it was going to be a matter of time for David to make it in life. So she looked to the future of David, and she spoke to the king in David, which nobody else saw at that time. So just putting everything together and all the questions, I'd like to also say to both young men and young women, perhaps if you go for the diamond in the rough, the treasure in the darkness, and be ready to make that progressive walk with that gentleman or lady, perhaps the marriage will last longer. And it would be marriage the way God intended it to be. Perhaps it's also after we've identified all the things that practically and psychologically, which is very important. So I like what Kingsley has said and Kayode. So we've looked at the psychological and scientific aspect. And I know also that what we are saying collectively is add to this aspect, the God aspect, which was what Nabal didn't have, and Abigail, his wife, had. What also interested me was when there was a challenging situation which was going to consume the whole of Nabal's household, the domestics didn't go to Nabal. They just said, you better go to Madam. Yes, she can solve. And as soon as Nabal gave up the ghost, David remembered Abigail, said, I need this wise woman. In my palace, as in this journey.
What you can do.
So look for the potential in the equation.
Thank you so much.
They have to come back.
No, this is
we're just scratching the surface.
I mean, you know how we say Auntie Tochi is returning on the spot. They have to give people checks. You know, Auntie Tochi has number 7. So I'm going to give you numbers because it's amazing. Thank you so much, Kingsley. I've learned so much in such a short time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kayode. I love how measured, calm you speak, but with so much profundity. Thank you for the whole concept of this, because this is a conversation we need to keep having. This is a conversation that is necessary for this time, so that people are, when you hear something so often, you believe the lie. Yes. And it is a lie that marriage is a scam, marriage doesn't work, there are no good women out there, there are no good men. But when you hear it often enough, you begin to believe that lie. So what we're doing and what Mrs. R has done is that you will hear this often enough to know that people are there who are making it work.
Yes.
And it can work. And that marriage is not difficult. It's not. It's just a journey. And, you know, ups and downs, but it's a journey. So that's why I'm so grateful for conversations with you. I'm so grateful, and I'm glad that you can bring these heavy weights, because if it was only me, I would have just been talking to myself. So
and if it was only me,
thank you.
I brought them also for my own comfort.
Thank you. I couldn't say thank you enough. And of course, if you have questions on the comments, please leave your questions. We'll always go to the comments and see what you have, and hopefully actually one-on-one answer you. But remember that the whole reason for this is do not believe the lie. You can make the right decision with the right person, and it can be an amazing journey. And if you want to be single, nothing wrong with that. It's also a perfect, amazing journey you can have with yourself. It's fine. Just don't believe a lie that once you get to a stage, everything stops and it doesn't work. Thank you for being a part of this particular conversation. I do hope that I will see you at the next conversation.